This is Ken Conley again. We're discussing some of the reasons why I wrote what I wrote, and one of them was misconceptions regarding divorce. The other one was misconceptions regarding marriage. The last one is important as well. It's the misconceptions regarding the options that we have. A lot of times we paint this picture of I'm either married or I'm divorced, and there's no in between. Years ago, I was on the Columbia River up in between Washington and Oregon, and there was this group we came into this rest stop, and there was this group that were obviously religious people. They turned out to be Mennonites. I talked to them. They just were wonderful people, though they weren't strange. They were just wonderful people, had a sincere faith. And when I left, they gave me a pamphlet regarding what they believe. And so on the way home, my wife was driving, and I was looking at this pamphlet, and I came to item number 22, number 27. I forget what number it was. That's not important. But it gave allusion to the fact that some people join groups like that because they want to get away from the world, and they figure that would be a group to join, right? Harmony and all that kind of stuff. But they had a statement in there saying, if you're coming to join us, that's fine. But if you have been married before and now you're divorced, don't even think about dating or being a part of one of our girls' lives. And it quoted a section of scripture where Paul talks about that Christians shouldn't get divorced, but the only option they had was that they could separate and they could be apart and hope that the marriage can reconcile. It's really clear to do in any sort of place where you need to be apart. And as a matter of fact, it can be apart for an hour. It can be to be apart for a weekend. It can be to be apart for a month or two. If it's really severe, it can be to be apart for an extended period of time. But I think what really needs to happen if we take that course of action is two things. One, we need to be really clear about why we're doing it. And the other is we need to really say, hey, look, I still love you. I want to stay in this marriage, but this has to change. The alcoholism has to go. The friends that you have that seem to take you away from your family and responsibilities, it's got to change. You got to pick the friends, or you need to pick your family. We need financial support around here, so you need to have a job if that's the problem. And there's other issues, but stating the issues need to be really clear. And again, the other thing that needs to be very important is that you say, before they head out the door, before this thing happens, to just reaffirm that you love them, that you care about them. I was seeing a physician up in Seattle when I worked up in there, and she was recommended to me by a guy at work, and my doctor's in Idaho, where I had just come from. And so I met with this woman doctor, the first time I'd ever done that, but terrific lady. And so we got to talking in between the doctor's visit, and she asked me, she said, so tell me about your family. And we were in crisis. So I told her kind of where we're at. And then she said, well, let me tell you about my family. She related this story of the fact that she came from a small town in Africa, in Nairobi, and that divorce in that particular community was really frowned upon. I mean, the community is so interknit, and we look at the United States, we're a large country, it's still very internet, and we don't really understand that concept. But her dad was physically abusive, and it was the African version. It was pretty bad. So her mom finally, and I think it needs to happen up front as much as possible. If there's something like that, it really needs to happen up front soon. Don't wait for 35 years and then just say, I'm done. Communicate as early as possible. But her mom would say, this is our home, and this is our furniture, and I'm going to keep your last name, and my mail's still going to come to this address, but I'm out of here. I'm not going to put up with that. And so she came and visited my doctor, her daughter, for like a year and a half when she was going to the University of Washington getting her doctorate. And then she went back after a year and a half to check on Bob or whatever his name was, and things hadn't solidified with him, and he started in on some stuff, and she gave the same little litany, but she said, I'm out of here. She asked me, the doctor I was with asked me, she goes, well, how do you think it turned out? And I said, I have no idea. Is this like permanent vacation or what? And she said, it came back together again, and they're lovers again and friends again. And so what happened is that mom, through wisdom, not only saved her marriage, but saved this family legacy. When I look at some of the high standards for marriage in the world, for as long as we know, they're found in the Holy Scriptures, and but you ought to take a look at some of the marriages in the Bible, and they're not perfect by any means. Hosea married a gal who was a prostitute. Abraham and Sarah had arguments. He gave her away twice. She said, "Hey, look, let's have children through the servant." I mean, it was just a mess. And yet, in each situation, God said, "You need to stay together. There's a legacy. There's an important thing going on here. This you need to work this out." So, what's the takeaway on all this? Is that I recommend you take a break, but you don't break up. Again, as we said before, the first marriage is not all marriages are the same. The first marriage is the most important one you'll ever have. And I just want to finish with a story of a good friend of mine. His wife was struggling with alcohol, and they had not been to church or around kind of that moral influence for years. And so they were talking about divorce. To them, it seemed like the only logical option. But she did something I think was fabulous. She told my friend, she goes, "Okay, big shot, you go tell the kids. I'm not going to tell them. You go tell the kids." And he went to try and tell the kids, and he couldn't. And so they didn't get divorced, and there were some real miracles that happened in that. And the marriage was, I want to say salvaged. It came back together again as good as it ever was. And actually, the alcohol issue got taken care of. So we need to remember that it's not just marriage as some people see it, and it's not just divorce, but probably the most vital thing is this place in the middle where we say, I need to grow up. Problem's not with marriage, it's with people. I need to grow up. And some people understand verbally and they make the changes. Some people are a little harder headed. And so sometimes you have to say, I'm giving you a place to grow, but it's not here. You got to go, and you got to fix that alcoholism. You got to fix the joblessness. You got to choose the friends or us. So just remember that's a really important option that we need to take forward. It helps us to save the marriage, not as a step of getting rid of it. I hope these videos have been helpful and instructive to you. It'd be my joy if they have.